In the last 3 years, the major players in the PPV class have been upgraded or updated or facelifted. Well, except for the Trailblazer, that's gone. But in the case of these two, well, these are not upgrades or updates. These are new generation ones. The Isuzu MU-X and the Ford Everest, and we have 4x4 for you. Hey guys, Vince here from AutoIndustriya, and we have something special for you today. Another Comparo video of two 4x4 models in the PPV category. To my left, we have the Isuzu MU-X LSE 4x4, and to my right, we have the Ford Everest Titanium Plus 4x4. Now, it may just seem like both of these models are exactly the same, meaning they're both four-wheel drive PPVs, but let me tell you now, they couldn't be more different. Let me show you why. The Isuzu MU-X was launched in 2021 as a new generation model. It's actually the companion to the Isuzu D-Max, which was launched, I think, the year before that in 2020, which we also like very much. But instead of the truck-ish styling of the D-Max, they went for something rather different for the MU-X, because traditionally it's been very truck-like. I mean, it's basically the wagon SUV version of the D-Max, but not so anymore. Yes, in terms of platform, it is still very much D-Max underneath, except for the rear suspension, but the body, the face, totally different. It's much more aerodynamic, much more sculpted, and it looks like it belongs in the country club, which we are at right now. But while Isuzu stepped out of their comfort zone, Ford actually really embraced their comfort zone, because this is actually a nice evolution of the Everest design. It borrows quite a few cues from what we're seeing also in the United States with vehicles like the Expedition, as well as the F-150, and also the new Ranger, which this one is partnered with. That is actually what's key about this category. It's the pairing between the truck and the SUV version. D-Max, MU-X, Ranger, and then Everest. That is something that's really attractive here in the Philippine market for many customers, because you get the height, you get the 4x4 capability, you get the robustness, and all the other traits that you can expect from this class, particularly with space. Let's go check it out. From the back, we can see the differences between the two vehicles, because in terms of design, they're actually very different. This one is a bit more curvy, again, like I mentioned. This one really looks beefy. It's kind of cool. The taillights on the Everest actually look really nice. It's nice and connected over there. It gives a very clean look. With Isuzu, it's actually also very nice, almost minimalist, which is kind of surprising. One thing I want to point out though, steel, plastic. That is something that differentiates these two vehicles. Isuzu went for a PP tailgate on their vehicle. Now, from the key, you can actually start the engine on the MU-X, but you can't do it with the Everest. There's no remote start here, which is nice. But both vehicles do have the remote tailgate. This one, you press and hold. This one, you click twice. Pretty nice. Now, in terms of space, let's look at the Isuzu first. Now, the space here is actually pretty good. There's even a compartment underneath, so you can store things that you don't, want people to see in your vehicle. To fold down the rear seats, you pull this, pull it down, pull this, pull it down. And in this configuration, it is about 45 inches from here to the back of the middle row, and about 43 inches wide between the wheel wells. We always measure the narrowest point because we believe that is more important. But when we fold down this rear seat, boom, in this configuration, it's 68 inches long from here to the very back. Closing the tailgate, right up there. Now, for this one, the space is actually really good. There's also a compartment here, which I showed you with the other Everest video, so go check that out. I'll take you through some of the features there. There's a compartment there, and it's also where you lower the spare tire from. But what makes this Everest different is that you can fold down the seats electrically, right over there. Now, it's nice and powered. I mean, it's nice that Ford did that with this variant of the Everest. All others are not powered like this one. In this configuration, it's just a little like 44 inches from here to the back seat, but it's also 43 inches wide. Pretty much the same. In terms of maximum cargo space, boom! It's also 68 inches, just like the Isuzu Mu-X. Powering the Isuzu Mu-X is a very, very familiar engine code, the 4JJ. Although this time it's evolved to become the 4JJ3. It's still a 3-liter turbo diesel engine. It can drive either the rear wheels or the front wheels via a 6-speed automatic, depending on how you set the transmission. Power is at 190 PS, torque is at 450. So clearly, Isuzu is not pushing out a lot from the engine, which is a good thing, because if an engine is not being pushed to do so much with so little, then it's not producing as much stress on itself when you're driving it along. Some of the other things notable here. You can notice the height of the air intake. That actually aids in the water weighting of this one. Now, I think it's around 800, something like that, more or less, because this is around 1 meter off the ground, if I remember when I measured it before. Now, onto the Ford. And this is why I can say that these two are very, very different, because the engine of this one is only a 2-liter bi-turbo diesel engine, but it has a 10-speed automatic. Again, can also drive the rear wheels or all 4 wheels, depending on how you set. And there are a lot of settings for this one. In terms of power though, this one is outperforming the Isuzu because it's making 210 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque, which is quite a bit. Now you can see what I mean by the approaches of these two automakers, because Isuzu was being quite conservative, Ford is being quite aggressive. Both of these approaches have pros and cons, so it's up to you to figure out which one suits you better. So now we're inside the new Ford Everest Titanium Plus 4x4. Yes, that is a mouthful. This is a top-of-the-line model, so there really is a lot to discuss in the vehicle. If you want to see how each seat feels, like in the middle row and the third row, you can check my other Ford Everest video, because it's pretty much the same for this one. Now, looking around the dashboard, it's, again, a very well thought-out dashboard. We've seen this in other versions of the Everest, but this one has most of the nice features, although it does have the ambient lighting here, the upper and lower glove compartments with the cup holders on the side. Very nice and practical. Cup holders here. You've got pocket here, which you can use for your key. You've got your phone with the wireless charger right there next to the USB port, USB-C port, and a little pocket here, which can also go for your key or for your wallet. It's got a bigger main screen compared to the other Everest versions I've tried before. So it's got your tachometer, speedometer, displays for actually 3 kinds of temperature: engine, gear, transmission, and engine oil, as well as the fuel tank level right there. It's actually very comprehensive. You should really go through your manual to understand all the displays going on there. There are actually more. Now, the thing I really like here is what's going on here in the middle, or at least it's the most noteworthy, because you've got this 12-inch screen here. It's the portrait touchscreen that Ford has been putting in their other vehicles. In the other variants, it's like 10 inches. This one has a full 12 inches. Climate control down here, but you can control all kinds of stuff here as well with the climate control over here as well. As you can see now, I have my Android Auto here hooked up. It also has Apple CarPlay, and both are wireless. So it hooks up via the Bluetooth. One thing I did find is that sometimes the Android Auto is buggy, because it just kind of resets and then disconnects and then reconnects again. It's all well and good, but sometimes it can be annoying. It also went garbled on me in another variant of the Ranger. So same system, so I don't expect to be any kind of difference there. But looking around some of the features of the vehicle, you've got all kinds of features there. You got your 360 camera. It's one of the nicest ones in the class, if not the nicest. You got your parking sensors right there. To allow you into, it has the automatic parking modes that you can activate for either parallel or perpendicular parking. I don't really use that. Valet mode, I don't really use that. The driver assistance, actually, there you go. You got your different features of the Ford Everest line, this being the Titanium Plus. You basically have everything. You have the adaptive cruise control, lane keeping, pre-collision, the rear camera delay. Actually, what is the rear camera delay? I've never counted. The shift out of reverse. Oh, that's rear camera delay. Okay. Blind spot. All this stuff you can configure. You can even set the kind of cruise control you want to have to be either normal or adaptive. Pretty cool lane centering system. It's got a lot of stuff that you can set, which is actually really nice. You may have to sit here and set everything the way you like it. Now, here in the middle, you have your, wait, let me put that out. You have your E-shifter. This is one of the new things, or one of the unique things for this version of the Everest, because it's different. You have, see, P, R, and D. I mean, it's pretty simple, or at least it seems pretty simple. You got your plus and minus right here on the left if you want to shift manually, with the M button right there. But one neat feature about this is when you turn it off, let's say you're in drive, you turn it off. My moo-moo. But it's actually pretty cool. One criticism of this one, though, is I tend to oversweep. And by that, I mean, if I'm doing, let's say, a three-point turn, a maniobra, if I'm coming from D, I want to get into R and to reverse, I always end up in P. You have to really pay attention to the number of clicks, and it's not super positive. So keep that in mind. Parking brake is right here. It also has auto brake hold, which you can control via here. So if you have your parking brake on, you want to go to your auto brake hold. Where is it? Somewhere. Auto hold right there. Sorry, right there. So auto hold right there. You can set it right there if you want to activate it. Also, the 4x4 controls are here, but some are here. Let me show you now. When we want to, let's say, go to 4x4 mode. Oh, get that out. Okay. Say you want to go to slippery mode, right? When you put it in slippery mode, it'll go up to 4 high right away. It's actually very idiot-proof, which is kind of nice because it just depends on where you're driving. Oh, I got into a slippery road, put into the slippery mode, and then that's it. You'll just go to 4 high right away. You can also go to mud and ruts, right? You can do that. There you go. Yeah, it's going to 4 high with the locked rear differential, which is nice. And then you have the sand mode. Let me see if it switches. No, it doesn't. So it's still in 4 high. Now, if you want to engage 4 low, you got to put it into, I think, reverse, into neutral. Engage 4-wheel drive low, so you can go for some serious off-roading depending on where you're going and what you're doing. But one thing that's kind of strange here, though, is that the 4-wheel drive lock is actually right here on the screen. There's not a physical button right here. Same thing with the Ranger 4x4. So keep that in mind. Now, that's something I brought up with Ford, the concern with having it right here, because you'd want to have a physical button, and there's one button blank where it should be. But either way, they're trying to get rid of as many buttons as they can, and that's what they did with the new Ford Everest. So enough talk, let's go out and drive this one. The level of technology in the Ford Everest is impressive. I mean, it even has this really nice 360 camera system. Well, the rear view plus a 360 camera system is very, very sweet. I mean, if you hit someone while backing out, hopefully not, in a Ford Everest, it's really on you. It takes away all the excuses. One thing I really want to get across here is that it doesn't feel like a truck anymore. Now, for some, that's okay, because a lot of people do like the car-like ride of, let's say, crossovers. But think of it like a crossover, but bigger and taller and more capable. The things I like about the Everest is the refinement, because like right now, gravel, no problem, feels great. And then when you get on the flat stuff, power, the response is right there. But what I want to stress here is the shifting of the transmission, because being a 10-speed, it tends to go through a lot of the gears or do a lot of shifting over the course of, let's say, a daily commute, because even on my daily drive, I can feel it shifting so many times, much more so than a 6-speed or even a 7-speed. So in this one, you feel it, even though the response is nice, yes, but you can feel it going through a lot of the gears. Now, that's not really a concern, but what it does bring up is the thought about wear and tear. We have to think about the wear and tear of the vehicle or of the transmission, because in a machine, the more it is used, the more it wears out. I mean, think of your phone, for example, your iPhone. I mean, we use the iPhone or smartphone analogy with this vehicle quite a bit. But the more you press that home button or any of the buttons, the more it's gonna wear out. And that is something to keep in mind with a vehicle like this, because the more it shifts, the more wear and tear it incurs. But the trade-off really is you get something that is well and truly advanced. And with the features of the vehicle, that's really the kind of thing that Ford is going for. Actually, that's what they go for with a lot of their vehicles. They always want to offer more features than their competitors for similar money. But one aspect Ford really stepped it up with the Everest is the 4x4 system with many kinds of modes. Now in the Ranger, I experienced a lot of these modes. In the Everest, not yet. This is actually my first time with the Everest 4x4. I wasn't able to join any of the other drives before. But in this one, you've got the usual 4 high, 4 low, 2 high, but you've also got the same drive modes like you would have in the Ranger. So let's go put one of them to the test. What I'm going to use here is the mud and ruts mode. Right, traction control off, diff is locked, which is good. It gives me the off-road status. Let's see if well, hopefully I don't get stuck. It's gonna suck. So right now it's going to take the guesswork out of a lot of thing here, meaning you don't have to learn how to blip the throttle. You should, but it's more about optimizing everything so that you've got the best chance of making it through and not getting stuck. Now, this here is a landfill. It's a landfill for the Metro Manila subway, which is why there's a lot of trash around. Oops, it's very, very slippery here. Not bad. And it's also right after Typhoon Paeng. It's about maintaining your momentum, making sure you don't get stuck, because once you stop, you will get stuck. Or right now, I shouldn't be steering too much. Not bad. It's handling it very well, and it's very easy. That's the important thing. It's very easy. Ford makes it very easy with all their technology. Split the throttle here. It's pretty deep. That is just but a taste of the 4x4 capabilities of the Everest, because honestly, it's good fun to do it. It's just, you know, not for everyone. And I think that's going to be the key for the Everest really here, because I think this is a vehicle that's good for someone who wants to go out, let's say on a weekend only, and do car camping, off-roading, casual stuff. You know, not the serious stuff where, you know, people have snorkels on their rigs. I mean, they start calling them rigs when they start setting them up with steel bumpers, the ladders in the back, jerry cans, all that stuff, the lift kits. Then they become rigs. This one is still more of a casual SUV, and that's actually a good thing, because it kind of makes a nice vehicle to venture out with casually without having to really commit. It gives you a lot of capability right there and then. Now let's hop into the Isuzu Mu-X and see how that does. And there really is a lot of dirt around here from that. When Isuzu launched the Mu-X in the Philippines last year, we were very impressed with the interior, and we still are, especially when it comes to comfort. Compared to the Everest, the seat comfort of this one, so much better. Like, yeah, on the back, same with this middle row, same with the third row. Well, third row, maybe not so, because the third row is really great. But the seating, yes, really, really nice. The design of the dashboard, still very nice with the leatherette on top. It's actually very clean and nice. It does have the glove upper compartment up here with different divisions, compartment down there with literature and stuff, and the cup holder right there and on the right side. So Thank you for opening that for me. And that is actually something that's been available with the Mu X since, well, they launched the previous generation one. Same with also the Colorado, which it also shared the platform with. Now, looking around the dashboard, what do we see? A nice steering wheel. Oh, by the way, this unit already has 19,555 kilometers on it. Quite a bit of mileage already, and it's still holding up very well. But the steering wheel, of course, if you look, it's a little bit smoother now, but still okay. The buttons still feel very, very nice. The gauge cluster, it's a traditional gauge cluster with a multi-info display in the middle. So speedometer on the left, on the right, tachometer on the left with a small multi-info display in the middle. Actually, that's something I've criticized with this vehicle, because for a very modern PPV already, that screen seems a bit too small for something like this. But that's also true for the indicator for the shifter or for the shift position, because it's actually really tiny. Now, in terms of controls here, yes, very nice. It's very nice over there. You've got multiple features here for safety. So you've got the advanced driver assistant for this one, for this version in particular. So adaptive cruise control, more on that later. Remember, in the old Mu X, it had that compartment up here. In this one, doesn't have it anymore. I kind of wish they retained it, because in the D-Max, they do have it. The screen here is the bigger one. It's a fully, I'm not actually sure how many inches. I think it's 10 inches. But it's also got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but the wired kind. So keep that in mind. It has different features. The usual Bluetooth. It has its own navigation system in there, USB, and then the clinometer. So in the Ford, this was actually integrated here as well. This one is actually right here, so you can get all the pertinent data you want right there for off-roading. Climate control down here, it's dual zone, which is again very nice. But what's really getting to me is the amount of blank spaces, and I've pointed this out with my reviews of the Mu X before, because let's count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 blank spaces. One more right here. So yeah, there's actually quite a bit quite a few features that have been, I guess, deemed unnecessary for our market, including diff lock. There's no diff lock right here. What you do have is an off-road mode next to the four-wheel drive controls. So here's a off-road mode, or the rough road mode, and then you have 2 high, 4 high, 4 low right here on this dial. You do have an electronic parking brake with auto brake hold in a separate button, which is kind of nice. Now, does that really make a big difference with the way this drives compared to the Everest? Let's take it out and find out. Both the Everest and Mu X are very much peers in the sense that they're very much new generation models from both manufacturers. But you can really see the difference in approach when you hop from one to the other. I mean, the Everest feels like an iPhone. It's very polished. It's very high-tech. It's loaded with, well, everything, like how your iPhone or your phone, your smartphone now can do things that a laptop can do like 10, 20 years ago. This one is a bit more old school. Now, that's not to say it's not as nice as the other one. If anything, this is actually playing to the strength of Isuzu, because we know Isuzu to be a truck manufacturer at heart. And with this one, you really feel it. Like, you go over this rough stuff, it's okay. It's no problem. The truck can take it. And that's actually why I like trucks in itself, because even though this is an SUV, this is a PPV, it's still got that truck characteristic through and through, and I like it. The biggest difference that you won't spot on a brochure with the Mu X versus an Everest is the feel of the controls, the steering, the transmission, the throttle pedal, and the way the vehicle rides. Now, yes, it does feel like a truck with the way the suspension is, the chassis feels, the way you drive it really. But the steering, it's a bit heavier because it's a hydraulic power steering unit, so it doesn't feel as light as the Everest, which still I do prefer this kind of steering. The transmission, it's a bit lazier. Now, that's not to say it's bad. It's actually nice because it kind of feels relaxed. You're just trundling along. it's not busy shifting 10 speeds all the time like with the Everest, because in that one you can really feel the transmission, shifting gears every couple of seconds, because it's got so many speeds to choose from, and the speeds, the speeds we're driving at in the Philippines vary greatly. If you're cruising, it's fine, but if you're negotiating traffic or going somewhere where you have to accelerate, decelerate, it'll feel weird. This one is actually just right. 6 speeds is, personally, I think it's a sweet spot for a lot of these vehicles. It's not as quick as the Everest, and that's okay, because you're not going to be racing around in your SUV anyway. You're just going to be cruising along, and the fact that the RPM, like for example, right now, let's cruise at around 50. It's kind of hard to cruise at a certain speed here because there are so many bumps and ruts. Oops, there you go. No problem in the MUX, but let's say we're cruising at 40. It's just doing a nice, just a little under 1500 RPM. And this is actually okay if you're just cruising around town like this. This is perfectly fine. It's fairly quiet, but you still hear the diesel coming through into the cabin just a little bit. Now, when it comes to fuel economy, definitely Everest more efficient, because that one is doing well over 9 kilometers per liter. This one is doing just a little bit under 9, like around 8.9, 8.8, depending on the speed. It may be a bit less depending on your traffic. That's in the city. On the highway, we're getting around 13 in this one. I think we can do better, but again, I prefer not to drive too efficiently, because we prefer to get real numbers here. Since this is the LSE 4x4 variant, you get a lot of the advanced driver assist systems that you would also get in the Everest, like adaptive cruise control, the lane keep assist, auto emergency braking, so on and so forth. But it's more of an addition to this one. With the Ford, it really feels like they really work together from the ground up to have these systems from the very start. This one, while it is very much integrated into the vehicle, is not as well integrated as it is with the Everest, but that's all right. With the audio system, though, that's where I think they could improve on with this vehicle, because this does not seem integrated to me as before. Because even, let's say, when you stop right now, and then we'll pop it into reverse. If you can see here, the screen, it's, not as good as the one in the Ford, or actually even in the Terra. And the guidelines actually do not move. It's just really guidelines. Now, when it comes to the 4x4 features, you don't get any of those same modes like you would get in the Everest. This is a bit more analog. Now, does that really make a difference with the experience? Well, we're going to pop it into 4 high. Hopefully, we won't need 4 low, and find out. Now, what I have in front of me is the landfill where I took the Everest a little bit earlier. I hope I don't get stuck, because some of the guys are also filming over there. So let's pop it into 4 low. I have to put it into neutral. So let's see if I can get through without any problems. Ooh. Yeah, it's soft. This is where they've been dumping the stuff from the Metro Manila subway excavation. So it's a bit tricky, but I think the MUX is fine, because, by the way, this is after Typhoon Paeng, so the soil is very, very soft. If I stop, I might end up getting stuck. But so far, it's actually proving to be okay. Just have to keep your momentum up. These are the basics of 4x4. I mean, if you know what you're doing in a MUX, this is actually quite okay. That's not bad. Let's do another go around there, because I have 4x4 low. Which, by the way, one thing I found strange about this vehicle, they did not include a 4-wheel drive lock or a diff lock system with this one, which I kind of found weird, because I mean, with off-roading, that's kind of a basic feature. But right now, the way I'm driving, sliding in the back, it's actually quite all right. The thing really here, yes, you do have to keep your momentum, because I can spot it now. I actually walked this course earlier. It is quite soft. I don't want to venture out over there, because it's not my goal to get stuck while I'm solo right now. But all things considered, this is quite okay. Let's go over this soft part What? Right. See, so long as you have the basics of 4x4ing, like, I'm not a serious 4x4 enthusiast by any stretch of the imagination. Well, we have to put it into, again, you have to pop it into neutral when you're switching from 4 low to 4 high, which is fine. Now to 2 high, and then back on your way. So, all well and good. Oh yeah, I picked up, how you know that it's a very soft surface is when you pick up a lot of mud and you can hear it being kicked up right there. Now let's go back and see which one we prefer. What I like about this job is dissecting the many decisions that car makers take in terms of how their vehicles are. And we can see two very different approaches to a 4x4 PPV right here, even though the colors are actually very, very similar. And the customer may seem very similar, but make no mistake about it. These are very, very different because Isuzu was on the more conservative side, Ford was definitely on the more aggressive side. And it's really up to you which one will suit your needs best. Now, whichever you pick, well, pricing is going to be the issue. This one is already retailing for $2.46 million. This one is already at $2.495. So, whoa, whichever one you go for, you're gonna have to really pay up for it. But again, if it suits you better, then it's going to be a win regardless of which one you pick. As for me, well, I like them both, but for very different reasons. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com. Thank you for watching. If you found this Comparo very useful, hopefully you'll give us a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe. See you on the next one.